Hello, YouTuberlonians, YouTuberizers. I believe the correct word for that is, I don't know exactly how to spell that, but that's the right word. As you can see, I'm sitting beside the Rio Grande, and she's still running. I guess the people upstream haven't turned it off yet. As you can see, I'm right by a bridge. That's what's called Picacho in Las Cruces, NM. This little thing behind me here isn't exactly a park. It's not too, but over there beyond the bridge there is some more green area that either the city or the county set this aside. They put in some trees, and I'm fortunately sitting in the shade of one of them right now. Just got done with a walk. I guess I could turn around. Just want to look at me or not? I don't care. I just took a walk off north there, kind of behind my right shoulder. Speaking of my right shoulder, that's another story. We'll talk about that some other time. I had an episode of stupidity yesterday where I attempted to. Have you ever read the definition to fly in Get Hitchhiker's Guide? Go look it up. Yeah, I think a definition of how to fly. You throw yourself at the ground and miss. I tried that. Didn't work. I made impact. And, that sneaker's still stiff. And of course, that's the shoulder I destroyed. When was that? 8 years ago or something. I just crashed it. So I was like, hey, let's abuse broken equipment, shall we? And I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything that needs to change. I think the lighting's okay there. It doesn't really matter. Who cares what I look like? Anyhow, I was just enjoying the morning. Watched this crazy video today. I'm not going to pass on the name of the maker because actually I don't recall it. I just ran across it today in my feed. I think the algorithm's beginning to catch on to what I like. And it was this guy, and I was not aware of this. Ford has gone woke. Gee, that's worked so well for everyone else, hasn't it? So anyway, he gets a good vid going. He's got a whole fleet of Fords. He's had Fords for years. He's a Ford man. Personally, I don't care for Fords. Who cares? But anyway, what he does is pretty clever. He takes one of his Ford trucks, and it's in decent shape. It's good shape. And he films it going up a hill and down a hill. Ford Tough, built Ford. So he's filming his own commercial, see? Ford Tough, Ford Tough. So he takes, supposedly, that truck and then goes back. It turns out the LGBTQ peoples have a rainbow truck. And in the Ford ad, rainbow truck is even tougher than their regular tough. That has an evil issue to it, and I'm going to discuss that briefly later. Anyway, of course, this guy says, hey, Ford, I hope you watch my ad. So he ended up painting over a really old dog of a Ford that was basically the same body type, but he painted it with a rainbow thing, just like, they do on the ad. So he's driving around the county, and this thing's a dog. It won't even go up a hill, barely runs. And he pulls up to this little kid. He goes, hey, how do you like my rainbow? You want to go for a ride? And the kid goes, I think I'll pass. Nobody likes this crap. And he points out, he makes a good point. He says, now, wait a minute. The veterans who bled and died, those fellas that ran up the hills of Iwo Jima against astonishing machine gun fire and drove the Japanese out at the cost of their lives. I mean, there was some courage in World War II and Korean and Vietnam. All the wars have had men and women who've just gone way above and way beyond in terms of courage and dedication to the end. And if the force is worth anything, it'd be like the Marines. We don't leave our dead behind. And anyway, them guys only get 1 day, but the LGBT, they get a whole month. So anyway, what he does is basically blows the thing up. First he gets a minigun, which was rather entertaining, but I never realized how scattered. It must be tough to aim a minigun. There's little ants all over the place there. I might have to cut this short here. The bugs are nuts here, right by the water. I did the same thing at the other end of my walk. Anyway, he blows the heck out of the truck with a propane tank. He says, hey, Ford, get a load of what I think of you. And I think much the same. But basically, as I put down the video, I thought, that's just sad. Basically, it's like, well, here we are. The civilized West, as they used to call it, is falling apart now. The wheels are falling off. And sometimes, we need to step back and understand that there's going to be anger, and that this man's got anger, and I understand. And I feel something of the same anger, but the thing that bothers me and disturbs me is what I was talking about earlier, the LGBTQ thing. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe not only in the Nazi Reich, probably in the 30s, but I believe also in the Roman legions. And there may have been this otherwise in Persian, I can't recall, or here, perhaps even Alexander had troops like, in other words, these people these world powers, or would-be wannabe world powers, like, you know, Hitler and company. I'm going to get my feet out. It's actually a little too cool. That's a good problem to have. If I just sit on the grass, I'm still grounded anyhow. Oh boy, it sure feels nice. Plus, I kind of want to let them dry off before I put my socks back on. Anyway, you guys need to get out and put your feet in the water somewhere. Find a living stream, or just go out in the backyard. Turn on the garden hose, get the grass wet, and then you stand in the wet spot and then water from there, okay? It'll just make you feel better. It's so interesting to me how many things are grounded in our bodies that once you attend to it and just go ahead and ground, a lot of stuff just goes away. A lot of tension, I don't know what it is, all this hurry, scurry. It seems like the whole world's in some insane headlong rush, like what they used to say, lemmings, rushing toward a cliff. And when you have one man or two, or a woman, or a small community of people stand up and say, no, you're going the wrong way, that path leads to destruction. That path leads to woe. Well, that person's got to be, regarded as a lunatic. And horribly out of date, might I add. Not with it at all, Daddy-O, you dig. You can never be up to date. You know the most out-of-date thing there is? Try to remain up to date. Because if you really are up to date, guess what? You're already out of date. Because styles and fashion change about whenever they need to. And as soon as I can find a new way to exclude you and think of me as better than you, I'll do it. And then guess what? That becomes a fad. So people do the stupidest things with their bodies. And with I was talking to a lady yesterday who had like 93 tattoos. And she was telling me like the horror and the pain of it sometimes. And if they get infected, watch out. You could die. Or I don't know if she said that. People do anything to themselves if fashion dictates it. No matter how dumbass that fashion is. Besides being just counterproductive, It's like, hey, let's invent shoes where your feet never touch the ground. Because they're stylish. Why do I feel sick all the time? I don't know. Buy taller shoes. World's going to hell in a handbasket. That's the way old people talk. And so, as an old guy, I guess I got to say that every so often. But I ain't going to give up hope, because the King of Kings, he's way above and beyond all this. He saw this coming. In fact, he predicted it pretty much perfectly, as far as I can tell. You look at the scriptures, look at Daniel. Just go back and listen to Daniel. Oh, by the way, I want to pass on to you. But anyway, what I'm saying is, I honestly believe, we are in those, what you might call the scary part of Revelation. And in my opinion, this so-called rapture, smapture stuff comes out of the 1820s. Some teenage girls sat down and cobbled together, thus saith the Lord. And you know what it was? Here was their new, thus saith the Lord. Jesus could come at any time. The apostle doesn't think so. And the church never believed so until about 1820, when these teenage girls said so. Anyway, this so-called secret rapture, to me, it's always just appeared to be basically gutless. Wimpy. Bureaucrat Christianity. And here's how it sounds. Think of the Marines charging uphill again in Iwo Jima against impossible machine gun fire. When the going gets tough. And perseverance counts. Well, I can tell you the Christians, they bugged out 3.5 years ago. Why? Well, it's a story about, never mind, get started on jokes out here. But that's the thing, is that the fools and the perverts and the liars, the Clintons of this world, I do call our current so-called president, that squatter at 1600 Pennsylvania, who prodigiously lied. He was never legally elected, and there's plenty of evidence of it. But of course, those and the so-called Obamas, if one of them guys is a girl, I don't know, the Clintons, and there's so many more. But the whole thing is so hopelessly corrupt now. Even the so-called Republicans, the Republicans, who are they? Well, the Republicans are those Democrats who still, quaintly enough, wear neckties to fool the people. So sitting out here, I'm just sitting there thinking, when you're out walking and you dip your feet in the water, oh boy, it just feels so nice. It just kind of slows you down, and when you look at little babies and kids and stuff, they're smart enough to go jumping up and down in the mud. Little rascals, they got it figured out. Just makes you feel good. So I was out walking, and I was thinking, in terms of this, I guess I should, whatever this portrait thing is called, I try to, I'm kind of wandering, but I do that all the time, wandering all over the map. I like to That's the way my mind is. I'm an undisciplined thinker and an undisciplined liver. Oh, and I have an undisciplined liver. I try not to drink too much. When you're out walking and it's a great opportunity to pray. And, when you walk in discipline, I was thinking about this. Walk in discipline. The teachings of Jesus, his people were called what? Disciples. They were being disciplined by him. How so? I mean, he wasn't hitting them in the head with a ruler, was he? I mean, yelling at them and stuff. Making up rules and, regulations, and you must be in by this date, or whatever. His discipline is a different kind. It's a living path. He is the living way. And it's rooted deeply in three-dimensional historical reality. And so what you have is, if you want to be walking in discipline, remind yourself as you go, I am a living human being. I'm a spirit, I'm a body, I'm a soul, I'm a mind. Hey, I'm an eyelash too. In other words, all of me is me. There's no part of me that's greater, but it is through the Spirit. Our spirit is joined to his spirit, according to the apostle, and together we bear witness. We say with John, behold the living one, the only hope of mankind, Jesus Christ the righteous, who intercepts the holy wrath in his body and is broken. In fact, the Father turns his back on him. I don't know you. That's what happened at the cross, and the world got dark. And everything changed. He changed everything on that one dime right there. The nobody downstairs. Remember that knucklehead? The nobody who thought he wanted to be a somebody? Well, guess what? He ain't got no name no more, and he's going to the fire. But the good thing is that his human slaves are being sheared off day by day. And the good news is going forth that the kingdom, that is to say the domain, the area, the turf, we would say the turf of Jesus is always growing, and at the expense of the nobody. He's losing ground every day. But when you look around, the world looks so dark. It's like I was saying earlier, like Western civilization's falling apart before my very eyes. And a company like Budweiser, they can afford to throw away $35 billion. That's with a B, a big B. It's like, hey, what'd you do with that $35 billion, Bob? I was going to go buy a car. Flushed it down the toilet. Why? Because I wanted to make a statement. Okay. But in other words, they're getting spanked and made the entire kingdom of Budweiser collapse. May Anheuser-Busch become a has-been and nobody, another Edsel. You want to play that game? Go ahead. But the curse of God is upon you. Well, anyway, now Ford's playing the game. Target's playing the game. Oh, and by the way, in that video, the guy takes a Target bag and puts it on the Ford and says, now that's a Target. Oh, and he throws a six-pack of Bud in the back of the truck before he blows it up. Kind of like artwork, And yeah, that's my kind of video to some degree, but I like think videos too. But anyway, he's our ground of being. He's the ground of reality. He's the guy that invented dirt. He's the guy who invented this living thing around us. Look at you. A living world. Air above and water in the air, water on the ground and water below the ground, and living things on it, both plants and animals and all creatures. I don't even know how many. It's an astonishing system. In fact, right now I see about 42 little gnats zooming around me out here. These little guys, but they don't bite or nothing. I don't know why they like to hang around me. It's like, I don't know what they get out of the deal. I don't know why you'd hang around me either, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. You guys, I don't want to take up all your day. I just wanted you to remember. Oh, I did want to mention that. I'm sorry, I don't want to sign off before. I'll do that a lot of times. I'll look at my own videos later and think, well, why didn't I finish that joke? Or why didn't I finish that story? Well, anyway, both the Nazi regime, the Romans, and I believe the Persians, perhaps even Alexander, some of their most especially brutal, vicious, kind of like the cutting edge of the SS, and the SS was supposed to be the cutting edge of the Wehrmacht, the army. These are supposed to be the Billy Q.B. badasses of the army, an exclusively homosexual cadre. They keep parading this colored flag thing, colored flag. Well, they stole the rainbow, but guess what? You can push God so far that you go over the falls. You're beyond rescue. You've made yourself too distant from your your own heart from your own center. You made yourself unhuman or inhuman. You've allowed the powers that are now being unleashed in the world, the powers of hell, you've allowed them to capture your heart, and you become numb. There's still time. Come back out, please. The Lord holds it nothing against you. He knows that the enemy would love to take captive, but Jesus will not be denied, and he's not going to lose one of his children. You come back while they're still open, but the door's closing soon. We're near the end of days, trust me. And I just wanted to talk about one of my crazy ideas. There's a guy named Tom Horn. You go check him out on Skywatch. I don't know exactly what to make of Tom, but he's the only man I know who believes that 13 April 2029, 2029, it's Friday the 13th that year. There's this bug flew up my nose. Oh boy, that right arm ain't gonna do this very long. I kind of toasted that right shoulder last night. Ugh. That's actually uncomfortable. Anyway, Horn and his son, never mind all that. He's talking about that big old hot rock coming down, and being for whatever she's worth. And by the way, I've divorced the girlfriend. I just uninstalled that app. I get sick of that two-faced double talking malarkey. That thing's a liar, vicious too. But anyway, the point is that what's happening around us is also what's happening in us. There's upheaval in the world around. The powers of hell are being loosed. How can you tell? Because the stench of hell is upon them. Deception, murder, pollution of every kind, addiction of every kind, disrespect of authority, undisciplined and unruly behavior, vicious, cruel, and worse. It's worse than that too. That's the feel of so much what's going on. We're going to tear down Western civilization and replace it with that crap. That's part of the plan. But at any rate, getting back to Horn, I'm going to hopefully wrap this thing up someday. Boy, my arm. Oh, darn, now my left arm's going to numb. Okay, I can kind of do this. Never mind the fact that you're being blinded. Hey, I could rotate. How about that? Still grounded. There you go. I just love this grounding. So anyhow, there's a passage in Daniel 12:90, 13:35, look it up. And just on a whim one day, I counted backwards. Where would that put you? Turns out it depends on how you count. Whether you count the 1st of October as 1, or whether you... And so in other words, you can reach 1290 from 1 October 2025. Depending on how you count. That would be the abomination of desolation. 1290 days before the abomination occurred. What is the abomination of desolation? Well, there's a lot of speculation on that, let me tell you. That's for sure, big guy. The abomination, the problem that we have, it says, let the reader understand. Well, we don't have no understanding. So what we do is just speculate out the wazoo. I don't want to do that. There's way too much of that. It's the end of the world, man. We got to pay attention. Walk in the disciplined path. May the word of Christ dwell richly in your heart and mind. But at any rate, 1290 days. But what is that? That's Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur. Yeah, the high holy day, the Day of Atonement. And this has been my, shall we say, Mike speculation all these years. Go back and reread the book of Hebrews. This is where I got it from. By taking the book of Hebrews seriously, you would conclude, I would conclude, what is desolation? I'm pretty sure I remember being desolated when my little dog Sam got hit by a car. I was about 9. And, you know, as soon as the dog died, I thought of all the mean things I'd done. You know, having fun and fooling the dog and knocking it over sideways when it wasn't looking and stuff. I was a mean kid. But desolation, you know, your mom dies and you're only 9. Or desolation, your beautiful, lovely daughter. We know what desolation is. Well, what's the one desolation that's just gone too far? Where God himself says, no more, no more. And it has to do with removing the daily sacrifice. Well, in order to have daily sacrifice, you'd have to have a temple now, wouldn't you? And I've actually heard Christians who are advocating for the building of the temple on the basis of this, which seems ragingly insane, and not only that, but ungodly, impious, and irreligious as well. How could you possibly be in favor as a Christian of resurrecting bloody sacrifice? How low do you go anyway? Go read the book of Hebrews. Go read it again. Are you going to replace really the blood of the Holy Lamb of God with that of a cow again? And expect to somehow please your Maker? To be reconciled, as it were? See, the Jews haven't done a real legal Yom Kippur in a long, long time. I guess sometime before the shoulders getting stiff. I guess sometime before the fall of the temple in 70, when the Romans took her down, there was probably a high priest, and they were probably doing a Yom Kippur. But you know, you'd have to have a legit, I mean a real priest of Aaron, a son of Aaron. Where are you going to dig that guy up? You'd have to have lawful ownership of the property. When did that occur? You'd have to have, it would be bad. You'd have to have the actual Ark of the Covenant present in the Holy of Holies. They dig that up lately. In order for it to be a lawful Yom Kippur, the high holy day, because it was on the day of the sacrifice that the sins of the people were atoned for by the high priest who goes in, remember, with the rope around his leg into the Holy of Holies. And if he keels over, we're going to drag his sorry wazoo out. Apparently he wasn't the right high priest or whatever. He displeased the maker. That's the old thing, man. That's passed away. You want to resurrect that? Really? Well, it turns out that in the book of Daniel, there's a passage about taking away the daily sacrifice. Guess what? There's a problem with that translation. That's American interpretation. Those are Bible interpreters. That's not what the scripture says. The scripture says until the dailies are taken away and the abomination is set up in the holy place where it not be. I take that as the commencing of bloody sacrifice, and I take that as the highest and most grievous, outrageous, disgusting thing you could ever comment in the face of God, to say that you are in for the re-inauguration of a true Yom Kippur. Well, if that happens in 2025, I say Apophis is coming down too, because it's 1290 days later. Could be. So it's worth thinking about. But the Lord coheres with reality. We keep thinking that spirituality is kind of like this disengaged thing where somehow I sheared off my spirit from my body, and my spirit out here in Yaya land had some little adventures. Well, it's one man, one creature. We are made in the image, and then we're being renewed again into the image of the new man. We were in the image of Adam, now we're in the image of the new Adam. The old man is being put off day by day, but we're to cooperate, request, and participate. And he blesses such things. He does. That's my testimony. So you get out there, and don't you fall into that rapture crowd going, well, you know what, here's the deal, see, and the tribulation's coming on, see, we got 3.5 years, man, we're going to bug out, see, we ain't going to be here, yeah. And it's like, hey, why are you guys talking like James Cagney? Actually, I don't think James Cagney ever did talk like that, but wouldn't it be funny, you know? We've got a gang of Christians, and they all sound like James Cagney. Small world. I think I'm getting a little carried away. It's kind of a good day to just goof off. I don't have much to do today, so you know what I've been doing? Oh, I want to tell you about this before I go. My mind moves quick. In fact, lots of times it moves a little too quick, and I can't shut her down. It's almost like a runaway word machine inside my heart and mind. So what I did is I thought, well, what if I can just find a better runaway word machine and swamp it out? Just swamp it back into being quiet. It's amazing. So what I've been doing, there's a pretty decent ESV translation on YouTube of the book of Matthew, but a lot of, maybe all the books, I don't know. But right now I'm in Matthew. I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and it only took me like an hour and a half. So what you can do is you can get into YouTube on the settings. Too bad you can't do this on my videos. Why is that, YouTube? I don't know. People might like to listen to me in really fast speed. Or slow too. But you can monkey with the speed. So if you'll speed it up, the Matthew translation is clearly enough enunciated that I can easily listen to it at double the rate. But the guy's talking real fast. He's talking really fast. But I can actually understand if I will simply quit thinking, shut down all inner commentary, kind of make a little energy ball with my hands, rest with my feet on the ground, and actively kind of power listen. And it's like washing your mind out with soap, man. It's just good. So I did Daniel like that. I did one of my favorites, Zephaniah. And I love the book of Matthew. And I'm trying to decide the next one. Now, I already shot through Ecclesiastes yesterday because I just love Ecclesiastes. It's been kind of my book all my life. But I began to think yesterday, I saw Ecclesiastes a little differently than I'd ever seen. But I listened to the whole thing, and it's like a power rush. And I'm pretty sure going to do Isaiah. And I don't know how many of these I'm going to do. But in other words, while you're riding around town, instead of listening to Disco Bob, commenting upon what the poodle and his gang of traitors are up to today. Immerse yourself in the testimony of life. Jesus says, heaven and earth is going to pass away. My words won't pass. And when the Spirit comes to you, He will take my word and He will bring it to your remembrance. And He will make much of me. And you'll come to agree with Him. Jesus is the best. That's all. He's the best of the best of the best of the best. And He welcomes warmly all who come, but especially those who know that they do not deserve to be there. Y'all come now. He loves you. Trust you. He loves you and He trusts you. He trusts you to do the right thing. Peace. Peace be upon Israel.